Have you ever caught yourself saying, I was doing so well and then I fell off? Or I'm cheating today? Or worse, I know I'm being bad when you eat out or when you go to a birthday party or a barbecue. If that feels familiar, you're not alone. Today, we're talking about why that mindset keeps women stuck and how the 1% approach can change everything.
Why do we keep going back to quick fixes, even when we know they don't work?
Welcome to the Coaches Hotline. Glucose, grit, and grace. Real talk with coaches, no sugarcoating.
We're here to help you ditch the diet cycle, stabilize blood sugar, and finally feel at home in your body.
Because health isn't about restriction, it's about freedom, energy, and confidence.
Let's dive in.
Welcome back to Glucose, Grit, and Grace. Today, we're diving into the mindset of being on or off and how that can ruin our mental and physical health, and how shifting toward a 1% better approach can change everything. So, hello, ladies.
Hello.
Hello.
So, let's talk today about that all or nothing mindset that we've all lived in. You know, the one where you're either being good or you've ruined everything. That for years. Oh my gosh. And
Me too.
I used to believe that success meant being perfect and anything less meant being a failure. And that thinking kept me exhausted, defeated, and constantly starting over.
Yeah.
No wonder people get the Sunday blues, right? When everything
Yeah.
has to start over again on Monday.
Yep.
So I think our clients too come in carrying that same pressure. And I think it's really heartbreaking because they think they are the problem. But this mindset of on or off, it didn't start with us. It was taught to us. So I wanted to unpack today where it came from, why it sticks, and how we can overcome that. Okay, does that sound good?
Yep. Sounds great.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Okay, so first let's answer this question. Where did we learn this idea that a health journey is either on or off?
I think we learned it from the diet industry, truthfully.
Totally.
Here's the thing is when you start a diet, you're doing it for what? A week, 30 days. And so it has a stop and or start and a stop. So if I'm starting, then I'm on. And then as soon as I'm done, I'm off. I was talking to one of my clients the other day, and her sister was doing Whole30 for a month. And it was October 31st. So she could have the wine because it wasn't the 30th. I was like, wow, nothing changed between those 2 days except the date.
Right.
You know, like your body's still going to react the same way. But I truly think that when we go into something short term, we automatically think we're on or we're off.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's just like with my first thought comes to, I mean, we had diet workshop around here, and it was writing down your food, and and if someone looked at your food diary, it's like you were embarrassed for them to see that you had that Reese cup or that you had this or that because that wasn't on the plan. So, how many times, and then this has been many years ago, that an instructor said, oh, well, you really need to get back on. You really need to follow the plan. So, if I had anything that wasn't on the plan, I wasn't doing it right. I was doing it wrong.
Yeah, I had a similar experience where I was working with a fitness trainer at a gym, and we had gone camping for the weekend. And when you're camping, there's s'mores and there's all this stuff that, just
Hot
camping
chocolate.
food. So I had to journal my food through all that thing. I had 6 M&Ms. I mean, not even peanut M&Ms, just 6 M&Ms. So I wrote down 6 M&Ms and I counted them. I'm like, that's all I'm going to have, 6, 2 of each color. And so I show my food journal to my fitness coach, and she's like, "You shouldn't have had those 6 M&Ms. That has ruined everything."
Gosh.
Yeah, 6. I mean,
Yeah, how can we survive in that? I mean, how did we?
We didn't, which
We
is
didn't.
Yeah, we didn't.
You're
That's the
absolutely
thing.
right.
right,
Yep.
right.
We've talked about how we've definitely been impacted by the concept of dieting and the vernacular that is surrounding it. So when did you all feel trapped in that start Monday loop, and what caused it for you personally?
I can think of one example where I was doing Weight Watchers and the
Mm-hmm.
meetings were on Fridays, and you do a weigh in on a Friday. And then it's like, I don't have to weigh in again until next Friday. I'm taking the weekend off. I am, gonna eat all these foods that I've been missing, and I'm not losing weight anyway. So, I mean, that standing on the scale publicly thing is so shaming and so depressing. And
Yeah.
anyway, that's a different story. But anyway, that's the mindset of, okay, I
Yes.
weighed in today, so now I can do anything, and then I'll just start over on Monday.
Yeah. And I used to look for meetings that were on Fridays. Even if Saturday wasn't so bad, because I was
Yeah.
okay on Friday, but that gave me Saturday and Sunday to kind of have those perpetual last suppers and then be able to
Mhm.
get back on Monday. So it's like Monday's the start of the week. So it's the start of a new diet. It's the start of this. It's the start of that. So I think that's where I fell into that trap of, of starting on Monday because it's the first day of the week. Okay. And I guess we're always all about let's start fresh on the first day. So
Mhm.
that's what I think how it relates to me.
Yeah. I agree 100%.
Yeah. So what do you think clients with this mindset usually believe?
I feel like they get stuck in kind of like we did, that I haven't been perfect, so I'll just throw it all out the window and start again. And they believe that they're failures.
Mhm.
Yes. Well, and I think part of it is because you're given a plan. And
Mhm.
many of us are very much about, I have to follow the plan. We don't deviate from the plan. My sister and I used to joke, well, we still kind of joke, we were huge cross stitch fanatics, the craft where you do cross stitch,
Mhm.
on this Ada cloth and everything. We would buy the kits, obviously, and we had all the DMC colors, like of the floss. We never deviated color from the chart. It was like, you need this color brown. We may have had one that you probably couldn't have told the difference, but there was no way we were deviating from that plan. And I think it's the same way with that mindset for the way we eat. We're not going to deviate because we've been told this is what works. This was what makes it look good. This is what's going to make
Mhm.
us look good. And so we have that mindset that if I don't follow the plan perfectly, then I'm not going to look good. So,
Right.
yeah, and that's really a hard mindset to break. So,
Well, I also think it's the kind of, when you were little and you would do something and your mom or dad or your teacher would look at you and just they were so disappointed in you. I don't think we ever lose that.
Yeah.
So when you go to your coach and you show that you have 6 M&Ms and she gets mad at you for that, like you get, you kind of go back into that, oh my God, I screwed up again.
Right.
I don't think that ever leaves us.
You get this spiral of failure. So then you're like,
Yes.
well, what does it matter? It doesn't matter anyway.
Yep,
Right.
absolutely.
I think that that's a hard mindset to break. And I think
Yes.
that that's why what we teach is so amazing, because we're not giving you a food plan that ends on a certain day,
Nope.
right? We're giving you the tools that will help you create your plates to be healthy plates, no matter where you are or what you're doing. You always have the opportunity to eat balanced, even if it might not be healthy all the time. It needs to at least be balanced, and there's freedom in that.
There,
Mhm.
We've talked a lot about that.
absolutely.
So
Yeah,
I think our mindsets always show up in our behavior, don't you think? So
absolutely.
this on and off mentality becomes so visible when you look at the day-to-day choices we make as women, especially. So when
Mhm.
we're on, we do everything perfectly and we're tightly controlled and we're hyper focused and we're rigid. And when we're off, it's like a switch flips and void, and we disconnect and we're like, I don't even care, right?
Yeah.
And it's such a painful swing. So let's break down what those two models really look like. And then I want to talk a little bit about how it damages not only our psyche, but also our health. So, what does that being on mindset look like?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's like I'm following the rules, I'm doing it all right, I'm being really intentional because I know it's only going to last 7 days or it's only going to last 30 days. Diets expect you to be perfect. And you had said that earlier today. They really do. They're like, if you are not being perfect, then you're failing. And
Mhm.
so we make sure we can be perfect for that amount of time. And so, I think that's what that on looks like, is whatever they told me I have to do because this is the only way I can be successful. I got to do it.
Yeah, I think for me, I guess obviously being on right now looks way different for me than it did a
Oh
couple
yeah.
years ago.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, being on, just like what you were saying, Amber, is about following things perfectly, not deviating from the plan, not changing the colors, because this
Mhm.
is what was prescribed for us. For me today is just looking at where am I, okay, so this happened. So what? Who cares? It's all data. We're just
Mhm.
going to look at it. Did I not? I'm going to look at it as data. Did I not maybe eat so balanced? So that's why I was craving something. So being on for me is more about being present these days and not
Mhm.
Love
necessarily
that.
about a plan or did I follow it 100% or was I a good girl today?
A
So
good girl. Oh,
I know
Hate that.
COVID's coming up.
brings back bad things, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
So, what about we've talked about being on. What does being off look like, do you think, from a mindset and actions?
I think it starts with a feeling of exhale because you're like white knuckling when you're on. And so all of
Mm,
a sudden it's day 31 and you're like, "Oh god, I'm so glad that was over. I made it. Thank goodness." But
right.
because you were so white knuckled during that on and you didn't change your mindset or any of your behaviors, you go back to exactly what you were doing before. That's
Or
where we exactly, and that's
yeah,
where we get stuck in that cycle is I know how to be off and I know how to be on. So I'm either one or the other. So if I'm not on, then I have to be
have to be
off.
off.
And it looks like what it was before I started this whole diet to change what I think of myself in the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where my mindset goes is it doesn't matter anyway.
Yep.
Nothing
Yeah.
ever works.
Yep.
And, I can look at a salad and gain weight. So it doesn't really matter. And it's
Mhm.
not going to matter today because my goal is, at the end of the year, I want to be X and X weight.
Mhm.
And so does today really matter?
Right.
And if I'm off, it doesn't.
Yep. That's true.
Yep.
Because you're not breaking any rules when you're off.
Right.
That's a really good point.
Wow.
Mhm.
Yeah. I know how many times I said to myself, oh, kind of what you said, Elaine, it doesn't matter anyway. It's not going to make a big difference. So I'm just not going to follow any plan, which actually was probably a good thought had I
Right.
done it in the right way years
Right.
True.
ago.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
so being off was, again, I know I mentioned that good girl being the on,
Mhm.
and it's, to me, a lot of times being off is about that bad girl.
Yep.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah,
Man, I hear this so much, like when I'm with family or out with friends, and say somebody orders a dessert and they're like, "Oh, I'm being so bad," and
yeah,
that it's just like is nails on a chalkboard for me now. Just
yeah,
that words of, "Well, I'm being bad" or "I'm cheating." I'm like, "Oh no, no, let's not go there." It
right.
really is like grating to me now when people say that.
Do you find
Yes.
you kind of hear that a little bit more now, or you recognize it more when other people say it, I think?
Definitely,
Because I
yeah,
don't want
Mhm.
them to hurt. I don't want them to feel like they are being bad when they're not, because that's so degrading, I think, in some ways, and to us mentally, to ourselves.
Mhm.
So,
Very disempowering.
it
yes,
truly
that's a good
is.
word for
Yeah,
it. Yes,
yeah.
Mhm.
absolutely.
Yeah, because I like how Carrie says food feeds your body or it fuels your soul. And sometimes you have to fuel your soul, but if you fuel
Mhm.
Mhm.
your body more often than you feed your soul, then you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. And
Yep.
so I wanted to kind of make sure that our audience knows that that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about go and eat cake for every meal.
Right.
Right.
We're talking about eating a balanced plate for 90% of the meals that you have control over. And then when you don't have control over a meal, or if you want to go out and celebrate with friends, you have the room and the freedom to choose whether you're going to feed your body a balanced meal there, or if you're going to feed your soul and enjoy something.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure that we made that
Yes.
delineation, right? So
Sure.
it's not a free for all, but it's intentional. It's intentional
Yes.
actions and choices.
Yes.
So this cycle though of on and off, it feels so frustrating and it's so deeply damaging. I think it chips away at our confidence, it chips away at our identity, because every time we like fall off the wagon, as if there was a wagon to fall off, we tell ourselves this false story about who we are, right? That we can't do anything, that we're a failure. So not only do our mindsets pay, but physically our bodies pay the price of these extreme swings. The stress, the inflammation, shame, guilt, it all weighs on us heavier than any meal ever could. And so many women think that they're failing when really it's just that on off mentality and thinking in a system that is designed to not serve you, right?
Mm-hmm.
The dieting industry we're starting to prove is just a system that is designed to fail so that you buy the next thing and you try the next pill and you try the next shot. So let's talk about what that cycle does to our mental, emotional, and physical health. Because once you understand the cost that you're paying, maybe that will help you understand why we're not a proponent of this being good or bad, on or off. So how does the mindset of falling off first affect our self-talk?
I think that when we feel like we're falling off, again, we've kind of mentioned it before, we feel like a failure. And then we feel like we're not good enough. Well, why am I not able to do this? Why am I so stupid? Why don't I have the willpower? And we start questioning our value. And so, that falling off has a huge mental impact to us of how we feel about ourselves. I know for years, I felt like I was lesser than anybody else. If there was a skinny person in the room, that person was way better than I was, because they obviously could control their eating. They obviously, and they had this nice body. We had no idea what was going on with them. So I wasn't failing, but I didn't feel it at that time. I felt like they had the perfect world. They were doing everything right, because look at them. They look gorgeous,
Right.
And we've also been taught that skinny means healthy.
Right.
Yes.
And we now know that is such a falsehood.
Yes,
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I remember we went into this, we were out on a vacation. This has been a year or so, a couple years ago. And there was this lady in there. It was one of those vinegar stores where you can get the different flavored vinegars and oils and stuff. Yeah, we walked in and this lady was really nice who was helping us. She looked really nice. And then as we got to talking, she's like, "Oh, I'm diabetic." And the first thing that popped to my mind, I was like, "Oh, you don't look like you're diabetic." And I'm like, "Well, what does a diabetic look like?" So kind of going along with what you talked about, Amber, just being skinny doesn't mean you're healthy. So
No.
And we don't make good decisions when we are in that state of guilt and shame and judgment. We're not empowered in our minds to make good decisions for ourselves.
right.
And so we know that it wreaks havoc on our mindset when we're really teetering between on and off. But there's also some huge physical impacts. So I'd love us to talk a little bit about what happens physically when we're swinging between on and off such huge extremes.
I'll tell you some of the things that I have experienced, because those extremes are real and they kept me really stuck for a long time. So I used to find that I was like all in, after the weekend, and you're like, you're so sick of yourself. And then I'm like, not 100% in, I am 1,000% in on Monday. And I'm getting up early and I'm going for a walk and I'm trying to run and I'm accomplishing everything on my list. And then I'm throwing in a gym workout, and then I'm exhausted from going 1,000%. And then the next 3 days, I do nothing because I have exhausted myself.
Or you hurt because of everything that you did.
Exactly.
Yes.
So that I was thinking about that this morning. that if we're going 1,000% and we'll do this at the beginning of the year or at the beginning of the month or beginning of the week, and we'll throw ourselves in, and then we wonder why we can't maintain that.
Yeah.
And we
Mhm.
push ourselves so hard, we'll physically exhaust ourselves. And what that does is it does not create trust with your body. Your body's like, okay, what are we going to be in for today? Are you going to make me run a marathon unfueled, or are we
Right.
going to sleep? Because now I want to sleep.
Yeah.
So when it creates extra stress, it creates extra confusion for your body because it doesn't know what to expect day after day. And that's just like physically, that's not even how it wreaks on your metabolism.
Yeah.
Well, and on that point, from a physiological standpoint, and this is across the board for humans, not men, not women, but when you put yourself at a deficit, caloric wise or macronutrient wise, your body is like, okay, I still need this stuff. So
Right.
I'm going to go grab it from the most nutrient dense part of the body, which is your muscle.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, as you are going through that deficit, your body is getting what it needs by burning or, using up your muscle. But when you're off and you are storing, when you're gaining weight, you're not gaining back that muscle. You're storing fat. So, yes, the scale is going up, but it's not going up with that muscle that you lost. It's going with fat, and we know that the health impact that can have when our bodies lose muscle and store
Right.
fat instead.
Absolutely.
And then the effect on your blood sugar is the spikes in
yes.
glycation and early aging, and then the dips and the craving food. And I mean, more than just one thing in your body is affected.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
So, we've talked about all the problems. Let's end this episode with some of the solutions. The 1% mindset or growth mindset and the concepts of grit and grace. So this is what changed everything for us and for our clients, is realizing that we didn't need to be more strict. We didn't need more willpower. We
Yes.
just needed to change the way we think. And that we call the 1% approach. And it removes perfection and it replaces it with progress. So that's what makes it sustainable. It feels doable. It works the way your brain and body were designed to work. And then when you layer in grit, which is the consistency and the determination to do good things for yourself, and then the grace, which is the compassion, when all of those are there together, something magical happens. And we start trusting ourselves again. Our bodies start trusting us again. So I want to talk about this mindset, that this 1% mindset that leads us to that long-term success, so that we can create progress in our lives. So how would you guys describe that 1% mindset, and what does that look like?
I think it's not the magic bullet. And here's what I mean by that. I think we are constantly looking for the magic bullet that changes things like that. I start taking the shot, and all of a sudden, in a month, I'm skinnier. And as long as we keep the magic bullet having to be an instantaneous thing, I think that again keeps us in that mentality. But when you are intentional, and you have to be intentional, like this does not happen overnight. And you know what? I still am making sure that every day I'm intentional. I've been doing this for like a year and a half, but it's okay. What can I do to move 1% better? And it's just the daily, like, I'm going to go a little bit farther and a little bit farther, and really being okay with knowing that those 1%, while they're not changing things overnight, throughout the course is going to impact so positively and make things so much better as you continue on this journey. And I think that's really huge.
Yeah. And I think the idea of 1%, people are like, well, how do I measure 1%? It's about the little gains or the little things
Mhm.
that we do that get us to where we want to be later on in life.
Yeah.
So that's where I think a lot of times that 1%, we just have to remember every little step that we make gets us to where we want to be.
Yes.
So no, it's not a measurable thing. Oh, 1%. So I did this many steps. I need to do that many steps. It's not
Right.
about that type. That's a plan. Okay.
Mhm.
Right.
And we
Right.
don't
Yeah.
want to, yeah, absolutely. So we have to think about oh, today I actually drank an extra glass of water. Yay, me. And celebrating that
Mhm.
1% change. And that's where that mindset comes in, because a lot of times we think that, oh, I wasn't 100% today. So kind of going back, I didn't succeed. When in reality, I was consistent. I did what I needed to do. And that's a win. And we
Yeah.
need to celebrate those little bit of wins. And I really feel like that's what it needs to look like in our daily lives.
Mhm.
It's not about perfection. It's about celebrating all those little wins and going from there. So that's just kind of my thought on that.
Mm.
Yes.
Also, that concept of paying attention to where we do win is so
Mhm.
powerful because it changes our mindsets from I'm such a failure to look at the progress I'm making, right?
Mhm.
And so paying attention to those wins is so important. I think the diet
Mhm.
industry tells us to pay attention to when we are lacking or when we fail. But I think
Mhm.
that's why we spend so much time in our program talking about, well, what went well today or what went well this week? And
Mhm.
Yeah.
how, are you, we don't have to measure by a scale, but are you sleeping better or do your shoes fit better? Stuff like
Mhm.
that. And it's
Yeah.
like we really start to see progress because we're looking at more than one data point.
Yes.
Well, and I find when I am meeting with clients, especially at the beginning, like the first thing I say, how did the week go? First thing, they want to tell me everything they did wrong.
Yes.
Oh, we went out to eat. And I was like, okay. And I was like, well, what did you eat? Well, we had our protein, and then here's what we had for our vegetables, and our carbs and stuff. And I was like, so you went out to eat and you had a balanced meal. I was like, congratulations. You went
Right.
out to eat and you had a balanced meal. Like,
Yeah.
we're so programmed to think
Yeah.
that we're always wrong. I think
That's
that's
right.
the big mission as coaches, is really helping people get off that mentality, because as long as you're being really thoughtful, you're probably doing all right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, how do you think grit and grace change this journey?
I think it opens up the idea that two things can be true.
Hmm.
Oh, I like that.
Because when I'm on, I'm good. And when I'm off, I'm bad. But we also know that grace is, yeah, you know what? I did have 12 M&Ms,
That's it.
Exactly. But, and so that's okay, because I'm 3 hours away from my next balanced meal. And I'm going to start with
Mhm.
my protein. I'm going to have a healthy fat and carb, and my blood sugar is going to be great.
Yep.
So that's that grace. But there's also that grit where we're like, you know what? That piece of chocolate cake looks amazing. And I also know that I chose not to serve my soul today, you know? And so the grit is choosing to show up for yourself in the healthiest way possible. And I think they're both incredibly important, and they need to work in tandem.
I always love the idea of consistency over perfection. That is
Yes.
one of my favorite, I don't know, phrases or whatever that we talk
Mm-hmm.
about a lot. So we're not going to be perfect. No
No.
one is going to be perfect. And maybe that last meal was a perfect, what we call a green meal, because, it had your proteins, your healthy fats, and your carbs. And it was very or I'm not going to say plant based, but very unprocessed is the word I'm kind of looking for, less processed foods. But at the same time, if we do have a cracker, it's okay. All right. We're not looking for perfection here.
Mm-mm.
And I think I've mentioned this before. I used to tell my teams, perfection is number one, boring. Number two, even if you are perfect, you're only going to be perfect for a short amount of time. There are so many outside factors that it's not possible to be perfect 100% of the time. So that's where I really like the grit and grace when it comes to this journey. Because I can tell you, even like I said, I've been on this for a little over 2 years, or doing this lifestyle for a little over 2 years. And
Mhm.
having that consistency over perfection makes me feel better about myself, because I can tell you that my self talk is much better than it was 2.5 years
Same, for
ago.
sure. So, yeah, we need to get out of our heads and start loving our
Yes,
Mhm.
bodies.
absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. So what shifts are we seeing with this approach of grit and grace in yourself and also in your clients?
Well, I think we've talked a lot about some of
Mm-hmm.
those changes, about how our mindsets are different, how we're more prone to look at our wins instead of our failures. And
Mm-hmm.
we're becoming more intentional about doing the things for ourselves and for our health without needing to be so rigid about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think part of it too, it's been so interesting about how, at least with some of my clients, they have been in that diet mindset for so long.
Yes.
And once they realize that there is nothing off limits, it's just a matter of how we treat it. It's a matter of how we think about it,
Yes.
and it's a matter of balancing that meal, and so we feel better.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's not a process that I know we talk about the 100 days of 1%, but as we've all evidenced, I mean, we've all been on this for way more than 100 days.
Oh, yes.
It's been a lifestyle change. And I can tell you the time that I've gained from not Googling what's the next best diet, you
Yes.
know, is just freedom.
Yeah.
I'm not looking for that next plan or, now I have to go grocery shopping for all of these foods that I really don't like anyway, but I'll go ahead and suffer through it for a little bit. Is that sustainable?
No.
Yeah.
So
I was going to say we waste a lot less food
Oh,
because
yes.
totally
we're not buying food that we hate. We're
right.
buying food that's healthy and whole and we love. And I'm not throwing away as many vegetables because every plate has vegetables on it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like the first thing I really noticed is I'm not wasting as much food as I used to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Lots
good
of
point.
weird benefits.
That's
Yes.
a great point.
Well, let's wrap up a little bit. I think the point of this episode was to help everybody understand that if you are stuck in that on-off cycle or mindset, we want you to hear this clearly. You do not have to live that way, right? There's another path. There's one that's filled with both grit and grace that develops trust between you and your body. So you don't have to be perfect 100% of the time. You just have to be willing to take these steps forward. We've seen this shift change lives, including our own.
Yes.
And so today we want to leave you with the hope and encouragement to take your next 1% step. So I want to kind of round robin this with you guys. Knowing what you know now about living a healthy lifestyle, what would you tell your past self?
That there is another way and it
Mhm.
feels completely different.
Yeah. I think for me, I would tell my past self, you are not a failure. You are good just as you are. And,
Mm-hmm.
that image that you have is not a true image.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's 1% action that our listeners could take today?
1% action. Oh, it could be like drinking a cup of water before you have your coffee or tea, just to
Mm-hmm.
get in an extra cup of water. That would be kind of a 1%.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think a 1% action is, I know I never did a lot of reflecting. At the end of the day, just sit down and think about your wins. Think about those small things that you did. I think that can be a huge 1%. Huge 1%?
Yes.
That is 1%,
A
right?
huge 1%.
I think it's a
There we go.
powerful.
There we go. Yes, an impactful 1% for what you did. And then you go to bed feeling grateful and thankful and like, oh, I did well today. Not that we're, but anyway, I
Yeah.
have something. Here's what I did today. And we
Mm-hmm.
can go to bed feeling happy. And then I think that energizes us for the next day. So
Creates momentum for sure.
it does.
Absolutely.
It does. So how do you guys think that listeners can practice grit and grace right now?
I think grit would be believing that you are worth it.
Yes.
And the grace would be forgiving yourself for being human.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure I can add on to that better. It's like, yeah, I'm going to start showing up for myself. That's grit because it's not always easy.
No.
But the
No.
grace is I'm still human. I'm still a wonderful person. And that chocolate cake doesn't define who I am as a human being.
Right.
That number on the scale doesn't say whether I deserve to be loved or not. So
Yeah.
that's that grace.
That last part that you said, that number on the scale doesn't say whether I deserve to be loved. That is
Yes.
so true, because we look at those numbers and that size as to, well, why would anybody love me if I'm like this?
Oh gosh, yes.
So, and loving ourselves is that first step. So I
Right.
really love that, Amber. That was awesome.
That was beautiful for
Yeah.
sure.
Yes.
Well, thank you to everyone for spending this time with us today. Truly, if anything in this episode feels familiar at all, if you heard pieces of your own story in this on and off cycle, we want you to know this. You are not alone and you are not behind. You are not meant to live your life constantly starting over. So, this all or nothing mindset has taught you to measure your worth by perfection. But perfection was never the assignment. Your body, your metabolism, your hormones, your nervous system, they all respond to consistency, not intensity. They respond to those small, steady actions repeated with intention, patience, and compassion. So choose one tiny action that brings you closer to the life that you want today. It can be anything you want it to be, but just do it. Do something that makes your life better today, that helps you show up for yourself better today than you did yesterday.
Yes.
Whatever it is, make it small, make it doable, and treat it as a loving action towards yourself. Because that one choice, repeated consistently, is what transforms everything. So if this conversation encouraged you, share it with a friend who might need the shift too. And make sure to follow the show so you never miss an episode. If you have questions or thoughts, please comment and we'll start a conversation right here. And if you have something you'd like us to explore in a future episode, please let us know.
Oh,
So
yeah.
until next time, remember,
Grit will move you forward.
Grace will keep you going.
and 1% at a time, you can build a life you're proud of. If you have questions or thoughts, please comment and we'll have a conversation.